Welcome to Talking Missions. My name is Brad Murray, and we are at Mission Fest, Edmonton, Alberta, 2019. And I'm sitting here with Kristen, which the last time I said it wrong, so I don't want you to get that out. I actually said Christian, but we had a whole conversation. You missed it. I wanted to bring you up to date on that. So she's with Alberta Recovery Center.
Adeara Recovery Center.
Adeara.
Yes.
Adeara, a Christian Recovery Center. And so now that's in Edmonton, Alberta.
Yeah.
And can you please tell us what that is about?
Yes. So Adeara Recovery Center we are formerly known as the Edmonton Dream Center. So most people know us as the Edmonton Dream Center. We've been in Edmonton since 1998. Mm-hmm. So we are a local long-term recovery center for women coming out of addiction, crisis, homelessness, all of the above. Wow. And so we have been around for quite a while. To break it down, we are the three things that make us really unique as opposed to a lot of the other recovery centers and addiction centers that are helping people with addictions in Edmonton. The three things that make us the most unique, I would say, are like I said, we're long-term. So the women, they decide that they come for minimum 6 months, they agree to, but many of them, if they're serious about recovery, many of them will stay for at least a year or two. So we believe in long-term recovery. Short-term is okay too, but to get to a lot of the roots of the issues, you really need long-term recovery to address the trauma and the issues for addiction that cause addiction and the ways that people think. And it takes a long time to heal. It doesn't take a month, right? So that's one thing that makes us really unique is that we're long-term. Second thing, this is really, really cool. Our women, we are one of the only two places in Canada that allow the women to come with their kids. So it allows for women to not have to choose between children and recovery. They can actually come into the recovery center along with their kids. And that's really, really special. So we have a lot of kids living with us as well. And then the third thing that makes us really unique is we're actually faith-based. So we are Jesus-based. It doesn't mean that the women have to be Christians coming in or leaving. It just means that the Christian faith is essential to our program, and it bleeds into every area of our program. So we're actually really holistic. I forget the term we sometimes use because I'm still learning, but bio, psycho, social, spiritual is the model that we follow. So we're very holistic. We believe in, obviously, the physical realm, but we also have a spirit, which is obviously the point of teaching from a Christian perspective. And then we also believe in bringing health for the body, the mind, soul, every part of our being. So, yeah.
Well, I like that because Ravi Zachariah always is saying if you don't have a belief system in order, nature abhors a vacuum. And that, you're filling that vacuum, which may be some of the reasons why people got into that situation in the first place. And even if that wasn't the reason they got into it, there's the vacuum, and we see vacuums in people's lives. So you bring in that. You're trying to fill that vacuum. Not even the word trying. That sounds weak somehow. You're bringing the alternative and the opportunity that vacuum can be filled. And I'm sure you've seen amazing stories.
Oh, it's so neat. Honestly, probably the majority of the women, I would say 80% plus of the women who come in end up becoming Christians or growing in their faith dramatically. And many of them would say, you know what, we've tried the short-term programming, we've tried doing life without God, without faith, and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It leaves them empty, it leaves them frustrated, and then it leaves them susceptible to addiction because or relapse because it does take a long time to get better. So you're right. Every human being has this vacuum inside. We have this desire for the spiritual, for God, for relationship. And so we always say as well that the opposite of addiction is connection. And so a lot of everyone struggling with addiction, in general, they are isolated in their environment, in their lives. Many of the times, of course, their family or their children will leave them, and so they're very much isolated. But when you put a woman or a person in an environment where they have healthy community with other people and with God, it's incredible at how much we see in terms of health and healing and recovery. And so we really, in our program, we not only do all of these women live there together, so it's a residential program where they live there. They're taking full full-time classes, but they're doing that in community with other women, with amazing, loving staff who also are faith-filled. Yeah. And so it's a really positive, encouraging environment for the women. Wow. And it's so encouraging. And then also on the way out, as they are starting to transition out of our program, we do have a transitional program. Okay. We have a transitional house. We're trying to develop more housing. That's one of our dreams, is to develop more housing down the road for the women. Amazing. But you can never take a woman and have her in this environment and then just at the end of it, okay, see you later, peace. Yeah. You need to transition them. You need to help them find community that's healthy, church environments or volunteering environments or places that they can continue growing in their faith with God and with other people. It's powerful.
Yeah, community is so key. The Bible is all throughout community, right? And sometimes we forget about the value of community. And again, even that community, we're talking about the void. Well, that vacuum, that community is just essential. Yeah. And I can hear that all over your program. Yeah. And that is awesome. Is it possible you're able to share one story, of course, not names and stuff can you share us an example of a story?
Yes. There's so many stories. We actually have been collecting stories from all over the place. So we actually are developing cool. kind of a book and something with all of our stories. But let me just think here. Let me just think of someone current, if I could think here. So in the past, there's something in the child services program or part of life, I don't know all the terminology for it.
That's fine.
But called when a parent can't take care of their child properly, the child goes PGO, which means I don't even know the exact parental, I don't know, something.
That's okay. So somebody will Google it
for us. You guys can Google it. But basically it just means it's nearly impossible for the mother to get their child back. The child has been taken away from them because it's been dangerous for the child. And it is very unlikely that they will ever get their child back. It's very unheard of that they get their child back full time. So we had a woman come. She's actually of Aboriginal descent. Beautiful woman. She came in with one of her children, she came in without her child because her child had gone PGO, meaning you can never get the child back, basically. It's very difficult. And through her programming, through the healing she walked through, she developed as a person. She went through a lot of healing. She obviously was working with these systems and everything with her child. Right. Long story short, because I wasn't actually here at the time, but she ended up getting her child back full time. Wow. She graduated her program. She stayed with us, I think, for 2 or 2.5 years. Okay. She completely transformed as a person. She found Jesus. She found so much healing. Right. She is restored back with her daughter now. It was unheard of. The courts were like, we don't ever see this happen. Right. So it was really profound that there was a way that God made a way for her to get her child back. And we have so many stories. We have stories of women getting their children back. We have stories of women graduating. We have we have 4 of our current ladies are actually going back to school again. Cool. So they're doing upgrading and training to become social workers themselves. And so, of course, as you can imagine, if you go through whatever you go through in life, that's pretty good training for God to use you in that really certain type of environment. So we have women going back to school right now. It is powerful to see. We've seen God just bring full healing to people's bodies, emotions, families, relationships. It's an incredible place to work because you are a part of seeing God's full healing and restoring power in these people's lives. Wow. And so there's women that we're working with right now who are also getting their children back and they're learning to become moms because the classes that they take are holistic. So we have classes that, of course, focus on helping these women come out of addiction, stay out of addiction, find the roots of the trauma that caused the desire and the need for addiction. So we have a lot of classes there, but we also have a lot of life skill classes. I know we have a parenting class, so these women are learning how to be healthy parents. Okay. We have all types of classes. I won't get into them right now, but it's incredible. So
you definitely sound excited about it. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
And I'll just share this too. We actually come out every quarterly we come up with a newsletter. So we create our own newsletter. We're actually just venturing out into new e-newsletters so you can get them online, which is awesome now. We can sign up for an e-newsletter. All right. Or the paper ones, the old school paper newsletters too. But every quarter we come out with these newsletters. Okay. And they're filled with upcoming events, with stories. We always have a testimony in it. So if you're ever interested in just I want to hear about some of the stories that these women walked through, we have our newsletters that you can find online, or you can sign up just to receive a paper copy.
If somebody, along those lines, what if somebody goes, that's something I'd like to investigate or something that I'd like to be involved in? How does that work? Do you guys have an avenue for that?
For the e-newsletter?
No, for somebody who would actually like to come alongside and help you guys and work with you guys.
Okay, so as a volunteer?
As a volunteer.
So we have a number of ways that people can get involved. So obviously, there's a group of us who are the staff there. Yeah. We are looking for volunteers to get involved right now. We are looking for mature Christians who want to dedicate some time in their week. So we have a number of volunteer opportunities. One of the main things that we're desperate in need of right now is we need help with childcare for the evening. So our women actually go through classes in the evenings. Okay. And then we have volunteers come in and take care of their kids while they can focus on their classes. So we are looking for just loving, amazing volunteers to come help us with that. We need drivers to help drive the women to church and to different events and all kinds of places. If you actually look online at our website, Adeara.ca, so that's ADEARA.ca, there will be a section for volunteers. So you can, I forget what the little thing it's under, but just look on the website. You can find under volunteers a whole bunch of areas that we're looking for volunteers. I know there might be some internship opportunities coming up. We're just developing some of that. Let me just think here. I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but volunteers are huge. Another way that people can get involved, can I talk about our upcoming event?
Go ahead.
Oh, we have the best event coming up. I'm so excited. I almost wish I had one of my things with me, one of my brochures. So we have 2 events every year, and we are looking for people to get involved with both of these events. Our event coming up is in June. June 14th. It's a Friday. I think that's the date. It's over there. But it's called the Leap of Faith. So it's a skydiving event. Oh, really? So it's for our whole community. Individuals.
I thought I saw some skydiving things.
Yeah, so individuals can get involved as young as 16. So we actually have a student jump opportunity. We have a regular individual jump. We have corporate jumps where corporations or churches can get involved. And basically with each of those jumps, what we do is if you want to get involved, which you should, it is so much fun. We every individual has to raise a minimum of $1,500. But for the student jumps, we've lowered it to a minimum of $750 that they have to raise for Adeara. All the money goes to Adeara. And then the corporations are $5,000 or more. There's sponsorship jumps and stuff. But basically what it is once you raise that money, you basically create a profile. You contact us saying you want to become one of our jumpers. You raise money, and then on June 14th, we have a huge event. It's an all-day event. It's so much fun. It's out at the airport out by Westlock. The big, I forget which airport it is, but it's out by Westlock. Last year we had 40 jumpers, 39 or 40 jumpers.
Well, that's cool.
And they're constantly taking planes up. They do training. You're jumping tandem with people. So you're not alone. I don't think I could do it alone. And so it's a huge skydiving opportunity. Awesome. So if it's on your bucket list, this is a great way. You can raise money for an amazing organization, and you can check it off your bucket list. So that is one of our upcoming events, June 14th. You can sign up on Adeara.ca. Or just contact us at the office for more information.
Okay, I'm going to make a little transition now. And we've been talking about Adeara, which is awesome. But I want to talk about you now for a second. Okay, what was it that got you involved in this? Were you involved in anything else similar before this? Like, what was it? Was it God calling you to something like this? Was it happenstance? What happened there?
So I'm currently the community coordinator, and I've only been there for about a year. But I actually was involved with Adeara, which like I said, it used to be called Edmonton Dream Center. So I was involved with them 10 years ago. So I worked for them for 4 years, 10 years ago. And I was in probably the lowest point in my life, struggling with major depression, major anxiety. Just a lot of stuff was coming up in my heart and my life, and where everyone was concerned for me. I was hopeless. I had no idea where I was going with my life. I was super frustrated. I felt like I had no purpose for my life. And I didn't have any direction. I was early 20s, and I just didn't know what to do, and I was depressed. I was anxious, in a very, very dark place. And a very long story short, God just used prophetic words over my life. He used people confirming each other left and right. He used the radio and started speaking to me about that I would be working with women in really dark situations. And I didn't know what that meant, but between all of these different people confirming each other, God just lined it up for me to find out about the Edmonton Dream Center, now Adeara. And I thought I would go as a volunteer because I heard that when you're really hurting in life, a good thing to do is to help other people. And if you help other people in that process, you find a lot of healing. So the idea was I was going to check out the Dream Center, do some volunteering, but then long story short, the director at the time, she heard from the Lord and God spoke to her and said, I want... when I left a message, she called me back. She said, God actually spoke to me, and I'm curious to know, are you looking for a job? Because we want to hire you. God spoke to me saying, we need to hire you. So God actually spoke directly to her. I ended up getting a job as a support worker, which means you work a lot of evenings and weekends, and you work directly with the women. I worked there for 4 years after I got a job there, and I went through a huge amount of healing personally. I remember crying on the way to work, being so stuck in this depressed, anxious state, saying, listen, God, I think I'm in the wrong place. I feel like I need to be a resident at this place. Not that I had any addictions to drugs or alcohol or anything, but I was so broken. I thought I can't be a worker here, but God had me there for a reason. And I healed through that time. I developed a backbone, because you kind of have to develop a backbone pretty quick when you're working in a place like that. Had an amazing time working for 4 years there, and then I ended up going to school and quitting because I had to go to school, pursue some other things. And then a year ago, I was looking for a part-time job, and I had heard amazing things about Adeara that they had been developing. They've come a long way since where they were before, from where they were before, and I ended up getting a job back there. Again, God spoke to the new director at the time. And said, you need to hire Kristen. So God made it so obvious that I was supposed to be there again. So now I'm here for a year, community coordinator, doing what I love. I've gone through a lot of healing, and now I get to walk other women through their own healing journeys, which is really powerful too.
No, that's good. I'm glad you brought up the depression part, because sometimes, like, I was doing another interview with somebody with struggling with FM, and yet he's in missions and working and stuff like that. You know, we're not coming from a place of perfection. You know, we're all thinking, oh, I can't do anything. I can't make this happen. You know, it's like, basically you come to the point, I'm going to make a phone call. So I heard a rumor that if you help somebody else, it's good for me. It's actually kind of a selfish motivation. And I'm okay with that. Sometimes it's really like, even when we're in sharing the gospel, there's an aspect of selfishness until you get addicted. You know, it's like somebody wanting a spouse. There's an aspect of selfishness until you really begin to know the person. Then you become selfless, right? And that's our relationship, the same aspect of it. And I just think that's amazing how you came. And then, so how did you find the depression in that? Did it begin to slowly flake away?
Yes. So, like I said, it was heavy depression, anxiety. I was refusing medication because I was so fearful. Later on in my life, I went through another bout of it, and I had to go on some medication for a season, and it really helped me. But at that time, you know what it was that really, really helped me? So God brought me into this place. He knew that I can handle it. God doesn't bring you into places unless he knows you can handle it. And I would say the journey of coming out of darkness and depression and that heaviness, it took a while. It took, I would say, a good year and a half to rise out of that and to come out of it. And then years of healing after that as well. Because the truth is, everyone has been traumatized to a degree. Usually. Most of us have been traumatized, whether it was intentional or not, by a parent or by whatever situation. And so for me, at that time, it was a mixture between finding out who God actually was. And getting to know him for who he was. It was just religion for me before, where I didn't really know him. I just knew about him. I just knew a lot of rules, but I didn't know him. Once I got to know who he was, the truth of who he was, and that started healing me. It was between getting to know God and finding healthy community, because I didn't have a lot of people my age or any mentors or anyone in my life. So for me, the turning point came when I found someone who started mentoring me, talking with me every week, walking me through things, praying with me, helping me understand who God actually was, coming out of this religious or this place in my mind where I was believing lies about God that was causing even more trauma. I just want to say this. There's a pastor that I listen to. You might have heard of him, Bill Johnson from Bethel Church in California. I listen to him quite a bit. And he says a quote that is something like this. He says, If you're ever in a place of hopeless, he says it way better.
Yeah,
but basically,
they always do.
If you're operating in a place of hopelessness,
yeah.
it means that you're believing a lie somewhere.
Okay.
So I understand there is depression, anxiety, there's medical things, but a lot of people who struggle with depression, they're coming and hopelessness in these things. A lot of that is caused because you're believing a lie about who God is, about who you are, about your worth, your value. And so as I started developing truth and understanding about who I actually was, the value that God had for me, how much worth I had, the truth about him as a father, I started healing through going through a lot of inner healing, healing through a lot of trauma that I personally had. And that takes a while. Just like our women, it took me a while too. So
exactly.
I eventually rose out of it. I've had some bouts here and there, but honestly, those bouts those always come when I'm in a season where I believe a lie about God. Oh, he doesn't care about me, or he's piecing out, just like these people pieced out of my life. And so when you can come to a place of having healthy community around you that will walk you through that stuff, that brokenness, that darkness, and encourage you, support you, love on you, and then as you also figure out who God is as the truth of who he is, that's what really brought me out of it. That is really cool. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for that's actually not everybody wants to share about things like that. I want to just thank you for sharing that with us. That's very helpful because, again, a lot of the listeners are not all coming from that place of perfection, as I was saying earlier, right? And thank you for sharing that with us. Now, if you're talking to, I'm going to ask you specifically, you're talking to a young woman who's kind of a reflection of yourself. Maybe she's in her early 20s, maybe later 20s, whatever, but she was struggling with maybe depression, or maybe she's not struggling with depression, but she wants to step out and start doing something for God. What kind of advice would you give her? Just speak to her directly, please. Does she wants to step out and start doing something for God? Yeah. You tricked me. I know. You didn't give me any time to think about this. I know, that's the best kind of answers, though. It always is. It's powerful. I would say, again, it comes down to we are created for community with God, healthy community with God, and healthy community with other people. That's right. And so if you want to start, again, rising out of that heaviness, that depression, chances are, like I said, it comes back down to what I said. Right. You're probably believing a lot of lies about yourself, a lot of lies about who God is, and you probably don't have a ton of healthy community around you that can cheer you on and encourage you. So if I was talking to someone who is struggling, this is apart from addiction specifically, but just in general, women, I would say it's important that you figure out who you are, how God actually sees you. Right. That is so powerful because that will bring you, that will show you who you are. That will show you what you're created for. Right. Get to know who God is. Right. The biggest thing that I find, as I grew up as a Christian, but again, I knew a lot about God, but I didn't know him. When you can know God, you can spend time with him. Right. This is what I would say. Start spending time with God. Yeah. Figure out who he is. And if you need mentorship, if you need friends to help you come to that place, you need to figure out who God is. And you need to believe the truth about who he is and what he thinks about you. Yeah. Because once you can get God's view on who you are, that's when you're going to start coming alive in those, in the vision that God has for your life, the purpose that he has for you. Right. He has a call for everyone. It might not be super specific, but he has something for every single person, no matter what. And so if you can get God's vision on who you are and what he's called you to, that alone will bring that hopelessness. It'll just take it away and it'll bring you hope. It'll get you excited about life. And again, surrounding yourself with healthy people. Sometimes you got to get away from the negative people in your life, the unhealthy people, the people who are kind of bringing you down or discouraging you or who don't believe in your dreams. Right. You got to get around people who believe in you, people who can see the gold in you and call it out. Right. They need to see what God has put inside of you and call it out. So whether that's a mentor, whether that's if they're in young adults, a young adult leader, whether that's maybe you're going to a church and it's a great church, but maybe you need to find another community group or another church that will help you find the community that you need. That's what happened with me. I love the church that I was in, but God was like, I need you to figure out who you are apart from what everybody else says, apart from what ministry says. I need to show you who you are, and that's not going to happen where you're at. And I didn't have any community in my age group. So when he moved me, and I asked, Holy Spirit, I need you to lead me. Lead me to where I'm supposed to be. And when he did, he showed me, he helped me, he brought me into community, healthy community. He brought me groups of friends, people who believed in me, people who mentored me. So I would say, if there's somebody who's struggling, I would say, get alone with God. Get to know him for who he truly is. And if you have a dry, dead, depressing view of Christianity, you don't know who God is. You don't know who he actually is. So if that's how you see God, if it's just like, religion, going back to church, this is depressing, this is a bunch of rules, and if there's no life in it, that means you don't actually know the truth of who God actually is. You haven't experienced him for yourself. And so if you can experience God for yourself, and listen, God, I don't want to believe, just talk to him, be real with him. I don't want to know you as this dry, dead, religious, distant, judgmental father. A lot of people believe that about him. That's not who he is. So you need to get alone with him, get into scripture, find a mentor, someone who's healthy, who has a relationship with God that's thriving, and have them mentor you, have them get to know you. That's what's going to make the difference.
I agree. Chris, I want to thank you so much for sharing your word, sharing your heart, sharing your story, where you came from, the organization you work with. If you're watching us, you can look on our website, and there'll be information where you can find out more about Adeara and find out more about these things, as well as if you're on YouTube, you can look down below and you can see that. Also, it's kind of just adding to what she said. There is something like, our byline is being on mission, living a purpose, and that is so important. If you don't have a purpose, if you don't have meaning, you're gonna find a lot of those things. But how do you find meaning without knowing God? So what she's saying, you're connecting with God, you're growing in God, and people around you. Sometimes, we got to be careful now that we get into a little cycle, so we can isolate ourselves, pretend we're trying to focus in on God, and we're not. We're just still in kind of this rut of isolation. So it's good. Yes, it is good. Get into the Word. Know him with all your mind, know him with all your heart, all your soul, and it's just coming connection with people who will challenge you. Because there's people out there, getting yes people isn't always going to help you. Especially when you're talking about your drug addiction. Hanging out with drug people saying, it's okay, everybody does it, that isn't going to help you. Hanging out with people who say, it's all right, everybody has a little depression, it's okay, it's all right. Well, we're not saying that's evil, but what we're saying is you can have more than that. And so... get together with those people, and we just want to encourage you again. I'm very inspired by the story. We want to thank her again, Kristen, again, for coming.
Thank you.
And
so nice to be here.
Yes, absolutely. And we want to thank you, listeners, for watching us and listening to us. And so, we're at Missions Fest 2019.
2019.
We're connecting here. So in 10 years when you're watching this podcast, you go, man, that's a long time ago. What are those people doing now?
What is up with their hairdos back then?
What are they wearing? But no, that's all good. So have fun and blessings to you, and we will see you again. And I'm going to bump me here.
Oh, yes.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.